Hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to speakupliberty.com. Before I get into the topic today, I just want to let you know that I identify as a Republican atheist. I recently came across an article that was published on Atheist.com titled "Atheists are not the most hated group in America, but no one really likes us." This was published in April 2015. A little bit of background about me and why I'm not offended by this article, and I can understand it. I've identified as an atheist for over 10 years now. When I was 18, I just decided to drop Christianity. I was raised in a relatively calm Christian environment as a child. My parents were really easygoing, let me listen to whatever music I wanted and really do what I wanted. But I was voluntarily Christian throughout high school, and when I was 18, I just one day said, I don't want to be Christian anymore. I don't want to be involved with any religion. I grew tired of feeling guilty for not praying when I first got up in the morning or praying when I went to bed at night, because when I would go to church, I was constantly told, if you're a true believer of God, if you truly have the Spirit in you, then you are glad to jump out of bed and praise God when you wake up in the morning. And I noticed that just wasn't how I was. When I got up in the morning, the first thing I wanted to do was get ready to go to school. I did not feel the need to pray to God. And so this kind of became a burden in my life. And I just one day said, I don't want to have this burden in my life anymore. I want to enjoy life. I want to focus on living life. And so I dropped religion and I became an atheist. I've been trying to participate in the atheist community for the past decade by intervening and participating in atheist groups in Southern California, but I just have always had a hard time connecting with the atheist community. And this has always baffled me because the atheist community is a minority. It is a growing community, but still, it's a community that's trying to make way in the United States, and I just have found that I don't really connect with atheists. It's very uncommon that I do. I've always wondered why that is. So this article touches on that, why atheists are the most hated group in America, but no one really likes us. The article doesn't get into many specific situations in the atheist community, but it does make a point that many people in America are unfamiliar with atheism. It is a word that's kind of tossed around a lot. People generally know it's people who don't believe in God. There's assumptions that are made about atheists, and since people are not very familiar with it, it's just generally assumed that they don't really like atheists. But I want to go into more of why I personally don't really like the atheist community. I came up with 4 reasons, so I'll list them for you, and then I'll go into more detail. Reason number 1 is atheists are obsessed with facts. Reason number 2 is personal assumptions. Number 3, atheists focus on Christianity. And number 4, the atheist community has been overtaken by liberals. Reason number 1, atheists are obsessed with facts. I understand many atheists, when they abandon religion, they feel that their knowledge is based on facts, that they know everything, because religion seems to be based on superstition and based on a Bible, not exactly facts. So when a person becomes an atheist, from what I've observed, they become focused on science, and they automatically think that science is all facts. And atheists tend to think that they know all the facts. I've participated in various conversations where I've presented my take on different issues. So one issue I have particularly been focusing on a lot for the past few years has been mass migration and how the Muslim community is integrating into Europe. And I've noticed that when I go into atheist communities and I'll share content that is critical of the Muslim community, is critical of mass migration, I am hit with a wave of negative feedback and criticism. I understand criticism. I understand people, based on their research, will have criticism of what I have to say about mass migration. But the thing is what I've noticed in the atheist community is that people are very harsh because in their heads, they think they know the facts. And I'll tell them, I'll say, I've lived in Sweden for a few years. I've been reading Swedish news regularly for the past few years. I obviously tell in our conversations that I know more than they do about specific issues pertaining to mass migration. But yet, I've found that many people in the atheist communities, in the primarily in the Facebook pages in Southern California, will combat me, and they think that they're right, that they know everything. It's like hitting my head against the wall when I talk to a lot of atheists. I just give up. I say, okay, you know all the facts. What is there to even discuss? Why am I even talking with you if you know all the facts? That's one of the big points I see that is problematic with the atheist community, is that they think they know everything, that they know all the facts. It's very, very difficult to have a two-way conversation with them where I feel that they're hearing me out and then I can hear them out. I tell people in the atheist community a lot, just, I understand you do your research, but understand I've done my research, and we have to come to terms with that. Reason number 2, personal assumptions. And this is my personal experience. I know people have different experiences on this, and this is really coming from my experiences of communicating on atheist Facebook pages that are based in Southern California. I understand it's Facebook, it's the internet. People say things on the internet that they normally wouldn't say in person, but I personally hold a higher standard for atheist groups, and I think that many atheists should. You should understand that you are presenting a community, you're trying to make way for a community in politics. Be aware of how you're treating people. Be aware that even if you're online, people still deserve respect. Okay, we're not in some random YouTube channel commenting negativity. We're now representing the atheist community in these groups. And I also want to note out that these groups are 500 people or below, and that's something I take into note, because I understand when you get into you get into groups that have like thousands and thousands of members, yeah, you're definitely gonna get some trolling. You're gonna get a lot of different feedback from people because they might not be so aligned with the group. But these groups have been 500 members and below, so in my opinion, that's a number that or where people can be more controlled a little and reminded about the foundation of the group. So here's an example of personal assumptions being made that I have found quite often in the atheist community. I want to say again that I'm a Republican atheist. I tend to have more conservative leaning views when I go into the atheist community, and the atheist community is liberal leaning for the most part. So there's always this debate I feel when I'm communicating in the atheist community, and I found that a lot of people rely on personal assumptions to make their point. So here's an example. In this one group that was honestly only 70 people, a very small atheist group, that I've met the people in person actually at their monthly luncheons. So I'm in the Facebook group and I post a video of a Muslim man speaking about how he's supportive of a 9-year-old woman, or little girl actually, a 9-year-old girl getting married because he thinks that she's reached puberty. In the video, someone's challenging him and saying, well, that's getting into pedophilia. I mean, what do you think about pedophilia? So I posted this video in the group because it gave a perception of Islam. 2 administrators responded to me. One responded to me and said, this content isn't permitted in this group because it's making a wide accusation against a group of people. It's basically stating that all Muslims think this way when that's not the case. So she didn't ask me why I posted the video or what I was trying to get at, and I had to respond to her and say, no, I'm posting this video not to make a statement about the entire Muslim community, but to showcase an aspect of the Muslim community. And then next, another administrator commented back. He asked me, have you ever met Muslims personally? Have you ever worked with Muslims? And I didn't know why that was incredibly important. I shared a link that gave more insight into childhood marriage happening in Germany and how it's an issue over there. And it was from a website called Galveston, which I have found to put out some relatively decent content after I've researched a lot of issues in Europe regarding mass migration. And the administrator of this atheist group just went off at me. He said, that's not a reputable website, that's a Zionist website. And then he posted a Washington Post article and said, this is a more reputable source and a reliable source. And then he went on to say, this is why I support people going to higher education and going to college, because then they can research and rely on more sophisticated sources. Basically, what I felt he was getting at was saying that I hadn't gone to college because I had shared this Galveston website link, which he claims to be a Zionist website. And that frustrated me because I've attended college for 5 years. I've gone to school above and beyond what a lot of people have. And so to be treated that way for posting this video that gives insight into Islam by fellow atheists very much aggravated me. I felt so aggravated that I didn't want to associate with that group anymore. I felt disrespected. I felt that they basically noted that I'm uneducated, that I'm dumb, I can't find decent sources. And that's, for me as a fellow atheist, it makes me question what it is like for religious people who come into the group and try to communicate. Reason number 3, atheists focus on Christianity. I've noticed that many atheist groups will post memes and jokes that focus specifically on Christianity. Christianity is one of the most talked about religions in the atheist community. I understand Christianity obviously has a lot of faults. There needs to be a lot of discussion about Christianity. But believe it or not, there are other religions in the world. There's Islam, there's the Sikh faith, Hinduism, Mormons. I mean, there's so many other religions out there. Yet I'm finding that Christianity is the number one religion discussed. And I take this kind of personally because, as I mentioned, I grew up in a Christian household that was relatively easygoing. I was personally voluntarily Christian for a good part of my childhood. I, personally speaking, have not had such a harsh experience within the Christian faith. So for me, being an atheist from a Christian background, seeing constant memes, jokes, criticism of Christianity, even I somewhat take offense to that. I feel that there are other religions that deserve much more discussion at this point in time. And that's one of the reasons why I think people do not like the atheist community, because they tend to focus on just one or two religions. Okay, reason number 4. Atheist community has been overtaken by liberals. This is understandable because the Democratic Party has been more susceptible or more responsive to the atheist community. It hasn't focused so much on religion. So it's understandable that the atheist community would sway to the left, would sway more to the Democratic Party and social liberal thinking. That makes sense. But one thing that's happened in the atheist community is that it has really been hijacked by the liberal community. Atheist has basically become synonymous with liberal. People can assume if a person says they're atheist, they probably participated in the women's marches that happened recently. They probably went to anti-Trump protests. They are, probably always voting Democrat. And when you go into an atheist community, it seems that way because from my experience, there's just been open support for women's march and things like that. And when I see people post even slightly conservative leaning content, it seems like there's a wave of negative criticism towards it that just defeats the person, defeats the discussion. And so when you have a person, for example, who maybe was formerly Christian, grew up in a conservative household, since many Christians are connected to the Republican Party. This person may have support for gun usage, may support the military, and again is coming from a Christian background. They come into the atheist community and they find that it's just been overtaken by this liberal community that's anti-gun, anti-military, and so forth. That person who just converted to atheism is going to get turned off. That person may continue to be atheist and maybe tell people that they're atheists, but that person may be turned off by the atheist community and say, I don't want to participate in this community because I get overtaken by liberals. The atheist community has become an identity politics community, and this is very controversial for a lot of people. This is mostly why I personally have had a hard time participating in the atheist community, because I feel that my political ideology, my political stance isn't respected. I'm often overtaken. I'm often just hit by a wave of negative criticism. And believe me, I'm not saying don't criticize people. Obviously, everyone should be criticized to some certain extent, because we don't agree with each other no matter what. But I think that there's just been it's just been highly accepted to criticize conservatives, libertarians, anyone who's not in the liberal arena, to just hit them with a wave of criticism. That it's overwhelming, it's drowning, and it can be very difficult. So again, the reasons why I think the atheist community is one of the most disliked communities is because, one, atheists are obsessed with facts. They tend to think they know everything. 2, they'll make personal assumptions. 3, atheists focus on Christianity. 4, atheist community has been overtaken by liberals. I'm not producing this video to scorn the atheist community and say, wow, you guys suck. I'm producing this video because I have to be honest, I have a lot of faith in the future of the atheist community. Pun intended. Faith. Yeah, sometimes I say religious words, to be honest, when I express my views on things. But I do. I really see a future for the atheist community as the conservative atheists begin to come out and hopefully balance out what's happening in the atheist community right now, because it's so one-sided that when anything's one-sided, you're just going to have problems. People aren't going to like it. People are going to have a hard time getting involved. And so hopefully with more and more feedback like what I'm providing here, we can balance the atheist community more. We can make it more open-minded. It can appeal to people of all kinds of political background, and hopefully become a stronger and more bonded community. That's my goal. That's why I produce these videos, and I hope that you take note of it. Thank you so much for tuning in.